So, John, tell us about the Content Club. What is it?
Saul, Content Club is a club bringing together world-class historians such as yourself, television producers such as me, and people who love history, hopefully such as the people who are watching this. And what we're trying to do is basically give power in the creation of history back to people who love history. So we're coming together to co-fund, co-create and experience history in a completely new way. And the key thing that we're trying to do is we're asking people that love history to help us fund world-class history documentaries. And in return, what we're offering is something that's never been offered before, which is we're essentially going to make 1,000 people a film, co-producers of the film. We're going to completely open up the production experience like it's never been done before.
Utterly genius is my immediate reaction to that, John, because, you and I both know from a long association. I think we first met in around about 2000, actually. I was studying for a PhD in Glasgow, and you were working for Scottish TV, I think, or either that or Ginger, who were part of Scottish TV, and you were making a documentary on the charge of the Light Brigade and had to go through all the usual rigmarole of getting the commission. And I think we even talked at that point that it wasn't a definite, even though it was a kind of total no-brainer of an idea. And is one of the points of Content Club that you don't have that pain of getting through this kind of layer of middle management that is thinking of all the reasons not to commission something.
Absolutely. So when we were talking about that some 20 something years ago, there were on average 40 hours television history a week. Now you're lucky if you get 3 hours, and it's not very well funded, and consequently generally not all that well made. And the reason is that the gatekeepers have lost faith in history. I mean, we know history books sell as well or better than they've ever been selling. We know that podcasts, a recent invention, history podcasts, have absolutely exploded. And there are literally millions and millions of people listening to these pieces of history. And part of the reason they're so popular is because you cannot get it on television anymore. So yeah, absolutely. We're trying to give the power back to the people to help us create something that we know they want.
Yeah, but it's more than just crowdfunding, isn't it? As you say, John, I mean, you could just say to people, look, we're going to make an amazing documentary. You can be part of the process in the sense that you can be partly responsible. We'll put your name at the end of the film. But this is going way beyond that, isn't it? This is actually allowing people. I mean, let's drill down a little bit more into what Content Club is offering, because presumably from the word go, the people who've bought into it, the club members, so to speak, have a say in what's going to be made, how it's going to be made, how the script's going to be developed. They'll get a little window into what's going on all the way through the process. I mean, are we really talking about that sort of level of interactivity?
Yeah, interaction, but not control. I think the key point to make here is that basically the producer director has to be in control of the project. Basically, you don't get a dog and bark yourself. So basically, we are talking about, the best of the best. And what we're opening up is the process of how they're going to make the film. Now, they're going to ask you, the co-producer, the funder, for your opinions at times, but the absolute thing that you're getting from the get-go is, how does this film get made? It's at the moment a couple of sides of A4 and 2 years of thinking of the producer. In the case of the first film that we're making, an unbelievable story of a forgotten war in the Spanish Pyrenees, how Rome conquered Hispania. So basically, at the moment, it's a piece of A4 and a lot of thinking. So how does that become a television film? Well, basically, first off, you have to pick your team. So you're going to be there as the team are being picked by the producer. As that starts to turn itself into a script, you're going to be reading that script. And yes, you're going to be able to say, don't think that makes sense. What about this? Can I make a suggestion? Yes, you can. Are we definitely going to listen to you? No, we're not. But yes, you are part of a community of 1,000 people who are deeply involved from the absolute get-go.
That's interesting, John. You talk about 1,000 members, and if everyone puts in, I think the idea is £300, that's going to be 300,000. Now that's a pretty decent budget. When I go back 20 years ago, about 100, 150 was a reasonable budget back in the day. So there are going to be a few bells and whistles on this, even allowing for inflation. Is that true?
Absolutely. There are two key things. One is the thing that's got the most squeezed in the last 15 years is allowing the producer director time to think. If you make the film you think you're going to make on day one, then you've made the wrong film. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that as you meet experts, as you go out on location, there will be shocks, surprises, bonuses, disappointments. And the film that you end up with, well, you know this, is nothing like the piece of paper you write, except these days it is. These days you write a piece of paper, you go out, you film that piece of paper, and pretty much what you've got is a magazine article with some pictures. That's not a great film. A great film is an unbelievable journey where things go right, things go wrong. And that's the journey that we're inviting you to come on. Come on a journey with a brilliant filmmaker and see what making a film is really about. It's nothing like what you would think.
I think one of the big advantages of Content Club, John, I'm obviously slightly biased. I've known you for a long time. I know your CV. You went from Ginger to edit Time Watch, the BBC's flagship documentary series, for 6 years, and then went on to found 360 Productions, which became one of the most successful factual producing indies of the last 10 years. You've moved on from that, and we can come to that in a minute, because I think your decision to move on and now come back to telly is really important, actually, isn't it? And it sort of underlines what an exciting prospect content is. But my point is, I'm already sort of bought into the fact that you're the right person to do this. But it's not just you, is it? Some of the best PDs you've worked with, the producer directors you work with over the years, are also coming on board.
Absolutely, Saul. I would say that as I sit here, I've probably got 10 ideas in my back pocket, and 10 of the best producer directors I've worked with over the last 25 years, absolutely gagging to come and make them. And the reason is just what I was talking about: power to deliver the film as you see it. So a couple of people have said to me, well, that's not going to work having 1,000 people involved. You know, some of them are going to be absolute nutters, blah, blah, blah. We're used to dealing with nutters who have bad ideas. You know, basically, for the last 15 years, there's been a process of disempowerment of producers and directors and creatives as people at the channel who really aren't deeply involved in the making of the film get to watch the edit and then tell you how to make the film. And it's like, well, of course you can give us some advice and some insight. That's obviously true, but you don't actually know what other material we've got. So stop being so prescriptive and have some respect for the process and for the producer director.
Now, the process is fascinating to me. I've obviously seen it from the inside. You and everyone else who's made programs understands that. But the man in the street who sees something streamed or watches it on terrestrial for the first time has got no idea about the process. And that's really what this is giving us a window, or giving the members a window into, isn't it? The process of making TV, but not just the process, but actually, as you say, playing some kind of role. We spoke years ago about the possibility of doing a series of, I think we were talking about going on a cruise ship, and I would obviously be talking about the history. And I said people would love to hear from the editor of Time Watch about how programs get commissioned and how they get made. Well, this is going to be the new Time Watch, isn't it? Let's face it, there isn't a Time Watch anymore. You and I struggle long and hard to make sure that Time Watch, the best history documentary series that was ever on any television channel, would carry on even after you left, John, and we did not succeed in that. But this is Time Watch reborn, isn't it?
I think it is Time Watch reborn, but with something even better behind it, which is a Time Watch club, if you like, the content club, where people... What's interesting about this idea is you've got a community of 1,000 people. They don't just have to be talking to us, of course. They'll be off in, chat rooms, talking to each other, as well as talking to the producer and to us, and coming up with suggestions and thoughts and excitement. And I think all the producers and myself and you, we're all really excited about the possibilities of all of the positives that this energy brings.
Yeah, and just a quick thought, John, on how this might go out. How are people eventually going to consume the programs that are being made by Content Club?
So basically, how it works usually is that one particular channel commissions the program but don't give you enough money to make it. So you have to go around the world to America and Canada and France and Germany and kind of hoover up what's called co-production funds. And so the program gets shown, most history programs get shown all over the world. Well, we're just bystepping the first thing. So we're not going to have a commissioner. We're just going to have the people who are funding the program, and then we're going to sell the program all over the world. So the programs will be the best history programs made this year, and they will be seen by global audiences all over the world. And you yourself will get to watch the film on the BBC or Channel 5 or Channel 4 or UK History. Obviously, as a co-funder, you'll also own the rights to stream it, so you'll be able to watch it as and whenever you want and say to your friends and family, oh, look, I made that. And you will have played a part in making it.
Yeah, it's very exciting, John. I mean, this is the biggest thing potentially to happen to history in an awful long time. You've talked about how the amount of hours of history programming has gone down and down and down. And yet I know, and you've already made this point, as a writer of military history in particular, but history more generally, pretty much the 5 of the top 10 best-selling non-fiction books every year are history books, and at least 3 of those are military history. And I know that you're going to make a lot of war, at least I hope you are, because that's my area of expertise. And there seems to be this disconnect, as you've said, between what the suits think the public want to watch and what we know people out there are prepared to consume. In fact, they are desperate to see more of.
Absolutely. There's been a mantra that World War II is dead for about 15 years in television history. You now see a lot of it on the telly, don't you? Old shows that you and I made 15, 20 years ago, endlessly being repeated. But yeah, I think, who knows what people want? Well, experts, people that write or make television tend to have some idea, but B, the fans themselves. And that's what the point of this club is. We're going to be asking the fans, what should we be making? What do you want to pay for? And at the moment, there is no forum. There is no real back channel where people are being asked, what do you want more of?
Great stuff, John. Well, I've heard the big picture. I really need to drill down and find out about the actual detail of some of these programs, because it's a tremendously exciting concept. But let's hear a little bit more about what we're actually going to be watching on our screen. So next chat, I think, needs to be with Sarah Jobling. But thanks so much for your time, John. Best of luck with it. It's very exciting.
Thank you very much, Saul.